my name's Paul. I live in France, and one of the things that annoys me the most about living here is la bise, the French way to say hello. For example, if I meet a girl that I've never met before, I don't know what to do. Do I shake her hand? Do I give her one kiss? Do I give her 2 kisses? Do I give her 3 kisses? Do I give her 4 kisses? Do I give her 5 kisses? How many kisses should I be giving you?
Well, he's made a name for himself as a comically confounded Englishman here in France. Paul Taylor's confusion about just how many kisses constitute a greeting went viral and more or less launched his comedy career. He joins us today in the studio as his new stand-up show, So British, or Presque, is getting Parisians laughing, which is no mean feat. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Have you finally cracked it? How many kisses is it?
I still don't know. It's still confusing. I was in Switzerland 2 days ago, and I did the weird thing where it's 3, and I wasn't. It's been so long since I've done 3 somewhere that I was confused, and then they were like, "Oh, well, you know, you should write a comedy sketch about it." I was like, "Yeah, we already have." Yeah, it's still confusing.
I must say, I never quite know. Now, starting out, a lot of your humour was based on just that, your experience as a Brit in France, things you couldn't get your head around despite speaking excellent French.
Yeah.
You just weren't used to the codes here. It's been a long time now in France for you. So most things make more sense, but are there still some things about French society that really surprise you, that get you off guard?
I wouldn't say that surprised me so much, but there's definitely times where I'm still frustrated on a constant basis of whether it's the administration process of things that I have to do when I had to renew my passports or getting married and things like that. And now that I've got a baby, there's a whole other set of administrative problems that I wasn't, ready for. But I wouldn't say they surprise me anymore. When it happens and I get annoyed, I just have to, it's kind of like anger management where I have to go, no, Paul, 10 seconds, 9, 8, it's just France, 7, 6, it's the way it is, 5, 4, they've got great bread, 3, 2, 1.
We're all still
and then I
here for
calm
the
down.
bread. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, as you may know, France 24 is a very mixed newsroom.
Yes.
With plenty of journalists who are native English speakers who learned French as a second language and vice versa. A lot of them identify with some of the difficulties that you flag up, but French people struggle with our language too. So let's hear from them.
When you have TH, it's always quite difficult for a Frenchman like me.
The.
Trousse.
Écureuil.
Dessous and dessus.
They sound incredibly similar.
Serrurerie.
When I first moved to Paris, I tried to tell someone that I'd spent the afternoon in a laundrette, and I said lavabo instead of laverie, which means sink. So I told them I spent the afternoon in my sink.
Quand j'ai dit je voudrais un coke normalement et j'ai dit coke.
Teacher is enseignante, and I was trying to tell someone I was a teacher, but I said je suis enceinte. I just told them I was pregnant.
So what about you? Have you had one epic language fail?
Yeah, it rings. When I first moved here and I was working at Apple, one of the first training sessions I had to deliver in French, because I was used to delivering them in English. And, Apple's very an exciting company. There's lots of young people. And so the opening line I would always give is like, hey, guys, I'm really excited to be here. Let me introduce myself. My name's Paul. I'm going to be your trainer for the next couple of weeks. And obviously, I just translated it in my French and I was like, hey, je suis super excité d'être là, laissez-moi m'introduire, je m'appelle Paul. And before I got the sentence out, everyone was laughing because I realised that it was more sexual than I thought it was.
It is indeed. And is there a word that you can't pronounce in French?
No, not really. I do have trouble sometimes. It's more in the middle of a phrase that I'll sometimes mix up the U's and the O's, like the U and O. Like the vowel sounds, basically. Sometimes I'll mix them up, but individual words on their own, I think I've cracked it.
Okay, well, I must say that one, écureuil, the word for squirrel, full of terrible vowels.
Yeah, écureuil is, as I said in my first show, it's like the conspiracy, because even in German, trying to say Einschränkung it's too complicated.
It's not for us, no.
Yeah.
Well, your new show, So British, or Presque, deals with some of those situations, and you do dig a bit deeper into the French language, its nuances, but you also talk about your new struggles with the English language. Let's take a look.
What I do now is I take fucking French words, I make them English, and I think that they're English words. But they're not English words. All the time. This show, So British ou Presque, the original title that I had in my head was Re-Becoming British. It's a great fucking title. Until I asked my friends in England, I'm like, guys, what do you think about the title Re-Becoming British? They're like, Paul, you're a fucking idiot. Because re-becoming is not an English word. Oh. Mais en français, tu deviens et tu redeviens. Bah, you become and you re-become, no?
So that suggests that linguistically you think in French. And are there any other areas where you've effectively become French?
It depends. I think it really depends where I am. If I'm in England and I've spent a week in England, then I'll have the opposite problem when I come back to France. I'll Frenchify English words. So I think it really depends how long you spend or where. I mean, I think in French a little bit more now because I work in French mostly. My wife's French. My whole team that I work with is French. So I speak French mostly when I'm here. So that's why my English brain doesn't kick in straight away. The other way I've become French is that I now complain out loud, which is not a thing that I was used to in England. As an English person, I don't know whether it's just me or whether it's just England in general. We complain, but internally. But we'll be very stoic. We'll be like, oh, okay, yeah. And we'll just be complaining. And we go home and then we just let it out at home and get really complainy. So now I do that, but I do it out loud. Although now I've kind of stopped because now that people sometimes recognize me, I don't want to come across as a really angry person in general. On stage, I'm pretty angry, and so I don't want people to be like, "Oh, he's actually an idiot in real life. Like, he's a horrible person."
No, it's true. There's no taboo about complaining here in France. But one thing that does tend to differ as well on opposite sides of the channel is sense of humour. When many foreigners arrive in France, they're told that jeu de mots or wordplay is a key component of the French sense of humour. So here at France 24, we conducted our own very scientific survey into just what the French and British sense of humour is made up of.
Pour moi, l'humour français, c'est du premier degré.
It's situational.
Not very funny.
Without wishing to generalise, French humour, it seems to me, quite a lot of the time is quite caustic, quite personal. So you can say really quite mean things to someone about them, perhaps about their physical appearance, and then you say, it was a joke. Haven't you got a sense of humour?
British humour, I would say, is quite sarcastic, quite dry, and can be a bit brutal.
Maybe more absurd.
We like laughing at small, ridiculous things.
Glisser sur une peau de banane, ça va faire beaucoup plus rire les Anglais que les Français.
Do you agree? English humour is slipping on a banana skin? No.
I don't know where that comes from. It's really interesting. I don't know if there's a debate about whether there is a different type of humour in different countries. I don't know. I think the same things make everyone laugh. I think it's more what we're used to. So in France, people are less used to consuming comedy or humour in the way that we do in the UK, which is a lot of stand-up, and in America, which is a lot of stand-up. Here, there's a lot of character-based things. So the shows that fill out les zéniths, the arenas in France, are shows where it's two people dressed up in character as old people and making and doing sort of character comedy, whereas stand-up is more how we consume humour in the UK. I would say the UK is more self-deprecating than in France. Like the first thing we'll do is we'll make fun of ourselves before we start making fun of other people, which in France they don't do a lot of. I don't think they appreciate when I make fun of them or when people make fun of the French. They like that, but they don't do it to themselves as much as we do it to ourselves.
Not naturally, yeah. Now, we were talking about this thing about identity, being British in France, French in Britain. National identity is a huge debate right now in Europe, in every country. And how do you see that quest for a separate identity on the part of the UK right now with everything that's going on with Brexit?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question about and I talk about it a bit in the show about where you're from and what defines where you're from. Is it where you're born? Is it where your parents are from? Is it where you've lived? And I think it's a question that's going to be asked a lot more going forward as well, because there's a lot more people that are having multicultural relationships with children from those different cultures. So I think eventually, it's just going to end up being one massive melting pot. And I think the fact that we've decided as a collective country to be like, great, we want to leave and be a separate thing. I mean, we were always kind of separate from Europe anyway, just physically, in general, geographically. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting. I mean, there's always two sides to each story, and I understand both camps. Obviously, I'm on the camp of staying in the EU because I'm English and I live in France. So for me personally, it makes more sense that way. But I do understand the other side of the argument as well for people who live in rural England who are never going to leave and appreciate what Europe is, and they feel left out of the UK. Being UK citizens.
Okay, well, a very diplomatic response to a very complicated question.
Too much.
That could also be material for comedy as well, and I'm sure that's great material for you. Now, we're going to something that everyone agrees is better in Britain than in France, which is music.
I was going to say food.
Oh, come on. No, we asked you for a cultural tip, something you've really enjoyed recently, and no surprise, you've named a band, a little up-and-coming group called Coldplay.
Yeah, they're quite small. I hope they break out at some stage.
Why should we be listening to this next album?
Well, for me, it was because I'm a huge fan. I've been a fan since I heard the first album. I think it was 2001, and I don't know. I followed them along, and I followed their music. And the last album, they were like, "This is it. We're kind of done." And so for me, it was kind of like, "Oh, okay." I knew it was going to happen at some stage. That was it. That was the end. And then all of a sudden, randomly, there was social media kind of started going crazy a couple of weeks ago with. A new poster and a new thing coming out. So I was really excited just because I'm a fan of the band. I think they put out some great music, and they have done for the last 20 years.
Okay, well, Christmas has come early for Coldplay fans. Thank you very much for joining us today, Paul. Now, we'll leave you with a little music courtesy of Coldplay. You can check out Paul's show here in Paris on Friday, Saturday and Sunday nights till the end of the year. And of course, you can get more arts and culture from us here at France 24 on our website. There's more news coming up just after this.